This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carinante. The Minnesota Twins and New York Yankees are in action right now. Last time we said, man, if they're going for the rubber game, I hope it's a fun podcast. If they're down 0-2, we'll be bummed. Well, they took the series. They're up 2-0. It's a 3-game set. Red hot Minnesota Twins, road Target Field. Doesn't seem to matter for Carlos Rodon and Marcus Stroman, both of whom were great. Rodon a little bit better. Stroman's 6 shutout, really hard to argue with. The offense showed up both games. Yesterday, they left a million runners on base in one of those games where you're like, that's going to come back to bite them. Not only did it not bite them, it didn't even get particularly close. They win 5-1 and 4-0. Clay Holmes goes in the first game in a non-save situation. Smart. I've liked the first 18 innings of this series tremendously, and the Yankees are out to a 3-0 lead so far today, but not to date it. We're going to mostly be talking about games 1 and 2, of course, and as well as the pertinent theme of the whole series that I think is probably unlikely. I don't think Aaron Judge is going to go into a catastrophic slump in the second half of the third game of this series. 4 for 4 yesterday, 467-foot homer and 3 doubles. Double again today. His last 8 plate appearances as of this record are just walks, homers, and doubles. He brought home the 4th insurance run yesterday. He's about to catch Juan Soto at OPS if he hasn't done it already, and that's not really Soto's fault. There are plenty of heroes through 2 games in Minnesota, Thomas Carinante, but Judge's dominance is clearly the key storyline. It extends far beyond the start of this series. And a lot of people who thought his toe might just turn him into an ineffective player, or were sort of rationalizing his really bad April, or not rationalizing, actually doing the exact opposite, saying he was really bad, and the reason is he sucks now. Those people are probably going to have to eat some crow pretty soon. We knew last year, based on the way he played after he came back from the toe, that the power was still there, the skill was still there, and so to think it disappeared year over year felt kind of ridiculous. I don't blame anyone who got frustrated with Judge's April. We certainly did. But I think we were in the camp of, man, whatever's got to get fixed has to maybe get fixed with an IL stint, because this is not going to resolve itself naturally. And then, boom, it resolved itself completely naturally.
It sure did. I can't believe how he's creeping up on Juan Soto in the OPS margin. We did not see that coming whatsoever.
I believe he maybe passed him during this game. I have to check right now, but he was like 10 points back entering. He should have, because Soto hasn't done much today, and Judge has another double.
He has another double.
So the answer is, 941 Judge, 928 Soto. And again, Soto hitting 306. Nothing to be ashamed of. Pretty good season by Juan Soto. But yes, Aaron Judge now has a higher OPS.
Yeah. And look, and just to clarify, we were worried about Aaron Judge being injured, not that he lost his talent. Some people out there were legitimately saying that there is something gravely wrong with
genuine, and saying just year over year, like this is when power hitters decline, age 31 to 32, and not usually.
Nope.
And he's also more than a power hitter, but those people, I would say, have been proven incorrect.
Yeah, and something needs to be done about them. But before we figure out what we're going to do to those people, DraftKings is here, Yankees fans. Maybe we can bet on their demise if we really wanted to. Is DraftKings wagering that? They might be. But right now they're offering a fantastic sign-up bonus for new users. New customers can place a $5 bet on any sport to instantly claim $150 in bonus bets. And all you got to do is sign up with our code Yanks Go Yard. You'll also receive 1 single game parlay reward every single day. Pretty good deal. The best part is that you will get both rewards, even if that first bet loses. We call that risk-free in the business. Using our code Yanks Go Yard not only gets you these bonuses with DraftKings, but it also directly supports your boys, Adam and Thomas, on the Yanks Go Yard podcast. So if you've been considering signing up for DraftKings, you got a friend who's interested, you got a family member, a drunken uncle, whoever, make sure to tell them, and you yourself use the code Yanks Go Yard to maximize those first bets. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 and older and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember, always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. So the coolest thing about this series, I know we don't have the coolest segment, but
well, we
26 hits in
could.
2
We should. I
games.
tried to switch it up a little bit in this one, especially because the series is still ongoing. But the series has already been won, so I'll hand it over to you for the coolest.
Yeah, but 26 hits in 2 fucking games. When was the last time we saw that? I understand it's the Twins, and I don't like making fun of the. You know what I've realized about a lot of like the Yankees' playoff success and their playoff failures? The playoff successes come against teams that like I don't want to beat down on. Like
Yeah.
I feel bad for the Twins. I feel bad for the Guardians. I feel bad for the Angels. Who else have we run over in our recent years? I feel like it's just a combination of those guys.
It's the Guardians and Twins all the time, and Astros always get us. Tigers
Red
always get
Sox,
us.
Tigers.
Tigers is the team that like I wouldn't feel bad at all if you were like if you could beat any team in the playoffs. Obviously, it's Astros, Red Sox 1-2, but ahead of the Rays, ahead of the Jays, I would like to deal the Tigers a new one. I would like to punch the Tigers in the eyeball. They beat us in 06 painfully. 2011 painfully,
2010,
2012 ALCS painfully, painful sweep. We have never beaten the Tigers in the modern era in a playoff series, and all of those have just been completely limp efforts. 06 especially, I will never forget. I liked that 06 team a lot. They won the first game of that postseason. I got to look this up because I need to figure out. Now we're already on a tangent, but you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
People come for the tangents. People always text me like, you know what's good on your podcast? The tangents. You know what's bad? All the other stuff. And I'm like, I don't remember if it was game 1 and 2 that were early. Okay, yeah. So that's it. Game 1 of the 06 postseason, 8:20 p.m. local, Tuesday, October 3rd. Whole stadium is juiced. Yankees go 5 runs in the 3rd. That lead gets cut in the 5th. They win 8-4. It's a great game. 14 hits, 8 runs. And you're like, all right, the Yankees are going to outclass these Tigers. Game 2, 1:10 p.m. on a Thursday.
That's sickening.
Are we okay? The Yankees go up 3-1 in this game, give up a run in the 5th, 6th, and 7th. Don't score on the bullpen, blow it 4-3. And then from that point forward, they disappear. 6-0 in game 3 in Detroit. 8-3 in game 4 in Detroit. And the momentum is just completely blunted by this mysterious day game that I remember being at school. I'm 15. I'm at school. And I'm like, what are the Yankees doing in this extremely important playoff game that's happening during a school day? Who did this? I went to the Mets game that night. The Mets got the primetime playoff spot. It's Mets-Dodgers. And the 06 Mets obviously also had a sad ending. But yeah, if you give me the Tigers in a playoff series, I'm looking to stomp them. Give me the Twins, I feel bad. And I also feel bad because at some point, this is, spoiler alert, none of the players from the 2002 Twins and Yankees are still here. So these are completely different players with a completely different identity, different front office, people in the dugout, no one responsible except Brian Cashman. And I don't know what Hal's role was in 2002, but Brian Cashman is the lone constant here. And every time the Yankees and Twins run into each other, the Twins are due. And somehow the Yankees win the series anyway, whether it's the playoffs or the Yankees lost their first regular season series at Minnesota in 20 years last year. And then this year, they're right back to taking the first 2 and 13 hits per game. So who the hell knows? And the Twins are red hot, but there's that happened against Pablo Lopez. And, you don't want to face Pablo Lopez until you do, apparently.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous record since 2002. And I know, look, I don't know what the juju is here, but the Yankees clearly get the better of the Twins every time. I'm still not. This is the hottest team in the AL going into this series. What were they, 17-3 in their last 20? I know they didn't play good.
13-game winning streak.
Yeah, they didn't play a whole lot of great teams, but they were good enough to capitalize on absolutely mopping the floor with those bad teams. And early in the season is when the bad teams actually have somewhat of an upper hand because there's a lot of uncertainty. Teams don't know what to expect. The Twins handled business. Twins did what they had to do. They were literally the hottest team in baseball. The Yankees have come in here. They've surrendered 1 run now across, what was that, the end of the 4th? The top half of the 4th?
Yeah.
So we're 23 innings in of 1-run ball against the Twins and have beaten down on good pitchers. Like, I know Chris Paddock isn't the greatest pitcher, but to knock him around for 12 hits and 2 walks and 5 earned runs, that's a success. and then they get after Pablo Lopez early. The only time that I was actually stressed, which I don't think is a segment today, right?
No, I removed it just because I didn't really pee my pants once in this series.
No, but I did. But last night I did look up because I watched both these games in their entirety, and it was flying at one point, and it's the 7th, and Pablo Lopez is still ripping 97-mile-an-hour fastballs, and I'm like, this guy's still in the game?
Yeah.
And sometimes the Yankees do that. They'll get after a really good pitcher early, and then they'll just let him go 7-8 innings, and it's like, dude, come on. You had the opportunity to chase him out. Like we gotta do better than that. Can't leave it up to chance this late in the game, but the bullpen's been nailed, so I haven't really been worried. But yeah, overall, like this team's doing exactly what they should do, and you're not hearing a peep about Juan Soto not doing anything, which is awesome.
Well, it's worth covering on this podcast too before we get into the first couple of games of this series. And a recap, something that dropped at we started at 2. I think it dropped at like 1:57 on the broadcast. Jack Curry interviewed Hal Steinbrenner for his podcast. And first of all, pretty big get. That's a big name. And if Hal wants to do another podcast, we'll take him. It probably doesn't. But Curry got the Steinbrenner exclusive. And he asked him about Juan Soto, who has obviously been transformative and incredible for this team. And the Mets fans of the world still think that there's a world where Steve Cohen just, blows down the door with $700 million to $750 million or whatever it'll take to just make the Yankees go, okay, you know what? We thought we wanted to win, but we actually can't pay that to one human being. So no. The only way to extinguish that thought that Mets fans keep having is by negotiating an in-season extension with Juan Soto, which for what argument hasn't been dispelled yet by Soto? He's been patient. Other players have learned from his example. He has embraced New York. He has performed at home. He has changed the construction of the lineup. Aaron Judge can coexist with him. If you're worried about one batting second and one batting third, maybe we'll make that switch someday. But Judge, again, like we said, is the hottest hitter on planet Earth, maybe having the best stretch of his career right now. Anthony Volpe in the leadoff spot too, ahead of Soto, up to around 280 now. Top 10 in FWAR in all of baseball, which I don't think a lot of people realize because he had that early sprint to the, hitting 380 after the first 10 games, then fell down all the way. I never got further than 250, I don't think, but he's back closer to 280. The power is there. The glove is there. The range is there. He's
on today.
Been one of the best players in baseball for a sustained period of time, and a lot of people haven't really noticed. And totally fine to have one of those seasons where you don't totally notice the contributions as long as the contributions are really good. All this to say, no reason not to commit massive money to Juan Soto other than the fact that Scott Boras is his agent and he doesn't do in-season negotiating. Well, Hal told Curry that he knows this reality too, but he thinks it would be a good idea to start contract negotiations in season with Soto, and reiterated again for those of you who weren't clear on it after the trade that he would like to keep Juan Soto in the Bronx for the remainder of his career. There were honestly people out there who were like, man, they keep saying, let's enjoy this year. That means they don't plan to enjoy other years. No, it means that he's under contract for one season. And what do we got to May 16th before Hal Steinbrenner, of all people, who we think closed the Judge deal, right? By calling him from Italy and sort of reiterating his intentions. Gets on the mic, puts the cans on, gets the podcast microphone. How you doing? How you doing, Jack? Good to talk to you. Good to be here. What's a sponsor today? I don't know. It's DraftKings. Okay, great. Thank you. And he gets on the podcast mic and he says, we want Juan Soto here for the rest of his career. And I know Scott doesn't do this, but I want to start negotiating soon. I usually think it's a distraction, and I don't think it's a distraction right now. There's no way to stop Mets fans to speculate about Juan Soto outside of a bombshell midseason extension. And it sounds like Hal Steinbrenner, at this point, is it going to happen? Who knows? Are the conversations going to be substantive? Seems that way. At the very least, that'll set them up for negotiating further after the season ends. And why not put a little fear in the hearts of Mets fans who are getting a little too cocky here for an under 500 team experiencing a June swoon in May? Why not put some comments out indicating just how far you plan to go for Juan Soto? Clearly, Hal Steinbrenner, who's usually skittish and careful, has seen enough.
Yeah, another group of people we got to do something with. What was I reading? I forgot to write about that. I'm going to write about that. I bookmarked this article.
A bunch of Ben Yole tweets. Why'd you bookmark?
No, it was even worse. It was David Sampson,
Mm-hmm.
who said that the Yankees are not going to fall for paying a new market premium for Juan Soto in the offseason.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, I mean, maybe, but also they know how much he's going to cost. It's not like a Rodon, and no offense to Rodon, it's not like a Rodon situation where he was maybe an injury-plagued player or had a couple good years right before hitting free agency. This is a generational player who's been nothing but that since the day he debuted.
And
So
Rodon doing a good job of making that like moderately large investment seem worth it right now too.
Yeah. Yep, I agree too, and we'll talk about that in a second. I would like to laugh about one thing. Judge's stats
I would like to laugh. Yeah, okay.
Judge's stats the last 14 days, 12 games. It's not counting today because it's not updated on Baseball Reference. 415 batting average, 1.490 OPS, which is like not even possible.
No.
12 runs scored, 17 hits, 7 doubles, 5 home runs, 11 RBIs, 10 walks. 9 strikeouts, so he cut back a little bit there. He's leading the league in strikeouts for a little bit. I don't know if that's still the case. I would like to see more RBI. I feel like when Judge goes on these power surges, he doesn't lead the league in strikeouts anymore. Would you look at that?
Yeah,
when he goes in these power surges, it's like the Mike Trout shit. It's like a ton of solo shots. How many homers did Mike Trout have to start the year? He had like 7 homers and like 10 RBIs.
10 RBI.
And
he also still has the longest home run of the year, but Judge has 2 and 3.
No, Judge tied him, I thought.
That's right.
Okay, good.
He has 2 of the top 3. Yesterday at 467, cracked that top 3. And it's Trout and Judge at 473. That's the...
Yeah. I mean, last night the StatCast was messed up. That was not a 467-foot home run.
There was a great... Did you catch the amazing Twitter moment, too, where, look... God forgive me, but I really do enjoy beat writers dunking on fans. Eric Boland tweeted, Yankees beat writer Eric Boland tweeted, I've been to Target Field for the 2014 Home Run Derby and plenty of games over the years, and I've never seen balls go there outside of the Home Run Derby. And some fan responded with a home run that Josh Donaldson on the Blue Jays hit in Minnesota in 2016. And Eric Boland was like, as a Yankees beat writer, I did not attend this Twins Blue Jays game from 8 years ago. My point stands, or whatever. It's like, okay, cool. You found one. Yeah, he didn't see that one.
That's all people do.
Yeah, but there's always an I found one guy. But it's like, yeah, no, I didn't. I haven't combed through all the Target Field home run footage from the last decade. And I'll get to it at some point. But I'm specifically talking about the Yankee games because the Yankees are the team that I cover. But that Judge homer went to rarefied air, and it feels like you usually only see those in Seattle. And finally, we got one at Target Field. The Judge homers in Seattle, it feels like, are usually the prodigious ones that are like 590. And he launched one early in the season. He hit that one in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And so everybody was like, all right, well, there's one, but why is he hitting 180 and missing on every outside slider and whiffing on 93 miles down the center of the plate? And we were all kind of dumbfounded. I mean, nobody was excited. Nobody was like, the breakout's around the corner. But it felt like they were going to have to deal with Judge in some way. But the more likely, it was probably 98% he's going to be back to form. And 2% or less that just like, going to be compromised maybe forever. And luckily we got the good side of that non-coin flip because he's back to reality.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the effect. It's greater on pitchers who don't get the full spring training. And then there is the reality that it's starting to catch up to hitters more because the pitchers are always ahead of the hitters once that's right? Yeah. When spring training comes. Yeah. So Judge didn't get enough time in the spring. I know it's usually useless and you don't want him to play a lot during the spring because you're worried about injuries, but the reps before the season starts are important to get back up to game speed. And like we said, I guess mid-spring beat up. We don't want that anymore, apparently, because it's real.
It's real and it's really bad.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been great watching Judge. I'm happy for him. I'm happy that we have this 1-2 punch where Judge was able to disappear for 4 weeks and Juan Soto carried the team. And it does make you nervous because the Yankees are a hot and cold lineup. So you're just wondering, oh God, are they going to be cold when the playoffs roll around and then we're screwed. Are one of these two not going to be atop their game, and it's going to put us in, tight positions with all these other contenders who have much better pitching staffs? But for the long haul of the regular season, it's incredibly beneficial because if Aaron Judge was slumping in this lineup for that first month of the season and Juan Soto was not here, and I know that's a crazy thing to say because generally these two players shouldn't be on the same team. Baseball doesn't work like that. It's been a savior. Now the Yankees are first in the division. They've been able to weather the storm of a Judge slump and some Judge potential injury concerns and stuff lingering from last year. And now he's back on his game, and it's only a matter of time before these performances normalize, and we're just seeing hopefully consistent offense just cruise through the rest of the way.
I hope so. It'd be great. Again, 13 hits, dumped back-to-back days. Shout out to the offense against a challenge, whether Chris Paddock was tipping or not. And that's an all-time confusing thing because the John Boy had Chris Paddock's pitches. I didn't. And John Boy did a really smart thing where he's just calling him, and clearly he's got something, but I'm not smart enough to get it. And you don't have it either. And we were talking out like, what's the tell? And it's much more interesting to have no idea, but to have there clearly be a tell. Moment I was happiest in this series so far. Look, 9-1 cumulative victory across the first two games. Carlos Rodon basically puts the Twins to sleep after the first inning when he gives up a leadoff homer and a single and another hit, and that's it, and that's all, and he's leaning on the slider. I'm giving Rodon just hit the cumulative Rodon start again, and he goes to the end of his rope and doesn't collapse before the end, closes on a high note. The number one thing we were talking about all offseason was I've seen him go 3 good innings. I'm not sure I've seen him go 6 or 7 good innings. Now I've seen that a bunch this year. And I'll also add Ashley Rodon pointing out that the Yes scouting report had the D and little things as Rodon's keys to the game. I mean, shout out to Ashley who's watching from home instead of Minnesota, because otherwise we probably wouldn't have caught that. I'm giving credit to them. The ease with which they finished things off on Tuesday during what was the most cathartic Knicks game in probably 25 years. I was at the Garden. Do not ask me what I paid for that ticket. I probably won't do it again. That's why you do it the one time. But, I've never focused less on a Yankee game, maybe, when you're in that building and you're trying to breathe and you're trying to, counter pacer runs with your own breath patterns because you're like, maybe this will help. Stop. That was just a simple win for the Yankees. Technically, some runners got on with under Ian Hamilton's watch. He was under duress for like 2 seconds at the end of the game. In the 7th? No, in the 8th. In the 8th. If you want to call that dicey, you can call that dicey, but pretty much smooth sailing to the finish line in a game that I was prepared to be a lot uglier.
Yeah, my moment comes from the first night too, just because, I don't know, I have more confidence in Rodon, but it's one of those things where you're still a little bit nervous, like gives up a home run to the first batter, and you're like, motherfuck. It's going to be one of those, right? He rebounded tremendously, only gave up 5 hits after that, didn't walk a single batter, but I think the biggest thing for me was the Yankees' immediate response in the top of the second. They take the lead. Oswaldo sacrifice fly, Volpe RBI double. And then you have the Stanton homer in the 3rd, Verdugo double in the 4th. So they tacked on the runs in succession. They responded to the immediate deflation in that bottom of the first inning. And that set the tone for Rodon to be able to cruise through his start. And then it set the tone for the remainder. Ryan Jeffers, dude, what the fuck is this guy doing, by the way? Like, who is he? Why is this happening?
I like him.
I like him too, but it's crazy. Batting leadoff DH one of these games, or both of them?
He's 26 years old too. I don't think anybody thought he was under 32, but 26.
No, did he not? He didn't play yesterday?
He
was catcher yesterday.
Yeah, $2.4 million this year. He's under control through 2026. He's the best catcher in the world.
Slugging .614, my God.
177 OPS plus.
Yeah.
It's probably the biggest advantage any team has at any position.
Truly. On that note, like Rodon slider, like when it's gliding in there, it's just falling onto the outside corner. Like that's when you know he's on. Mm-hmm. It's effortless. It's just spinning right out of his hand. It's going exactly where he wants it to. That was in totality, the Yankees punching back that early and then Rodon rebounding and not letting that home run get to him really was massive.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I expected Rodon to put up quite this many quality starts quite this early in the season. It felt like we were poised to argue about him for a little while longer before he got good, especially when the whip was really high early in the year. And you could hear the naysayers. Remember that game not just the game in Toronto, obviously, where he gave up, I think, 88 foul balls in 4 innings. But the game in Arizona early in the year, too, where it felt like, okay, the line is good, but he's not finishing anybody off. And if anybody wanted to hate on him today, I hear where you're coming from. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk to you, but I get it. I'm going to pull up that game log because it was, 5 1/3, 7 hits, only 3 Ks. The FIP at that point is 5.90 through 2 starts, even though the ERA is 2.79. A lot of traffic on the bases. That Toronto start is really the last time that he had that issue. Right now, his FIP is still 4.39. And I guess that's home runs allowed. He had that dreadful start in Baltimore. 6 earned runs, 7 total in 4 innings, a lot of hits, but no walks. His last 4 starts, 1 walk total. His first 4 starts, 11 walks total. Then at that point, it's 7 innings, 2 walks against Oakland, 6 innings, 1 walk against Milwaukee, none. Baltimore, Houston, Minnesota. And the Orioles made him pay. The Orioles are good offense. He had great stuff in that game. And people were laughing at Michael Kay for saying he had great stuff in that game. No, he did. And then he got hit around because the Orioles are good and the location
it happens.
That's a you don't know ball for me. When people are like, announcer talking about great stuff in a game where the starter got rocked, get bent. It's like, no, he did have great stuff. And the location was bad. He fell apart late in the game. The Orioles are a good offense and they got it. And then after that, Houston, who doesn't lose anymore. They're won 6 of their last 7. So that makes the Yankee series win a little more impressive. 6 1/3 innings, 7 hits allowed, 7 Ks, no walks. And then Minnesota, 6 hits allowed, no walks again, 6 Ks. Homers, sure, he's allowed 8 this year. Bit of an issue. Less of an issue for him than Stroman, because Stroman was supposed to limit homers and Rodon was not. And so far, Marcus Stroman on the year has allowed 7. Many of them have been recent, but he was freaking great yesterday too. So who am I to be concerned? Who am I to concern troll at this point? Unsung hero is the segment that I'm changing and adding to this one because we got a lot of success through 2 games to go through, and I didn't spend much time panicking. I was thinking about the Rangers and the Knicks. This is a good time of year for the Yankees to have casual, simple first 2 wins to start a series in Minnesota. Going into the day game, already having taken care of business, head home tomorrow, face Chicago. Unsung hero goes to Ian Hamilton, who, let's just say, has been the team's 3rd best reliever so far this year, but also I'm not as confident as I should be when he enters a game. And he gets through 2 innings against Minnesota in the opener, gives way to Clay Holmes' non-save situation. Hamilton's FIP will tell you the full story. The ERA is 2.82. The FIP is 3.69. Both pretty good. Not what he was last year. So shout out to him he had to scratch and claw in the 9th inning against the Rays on Sunday. Had 1 jam to get out of in the 7th and 8th combined on Tuesday, but ultimately did the job more effortlessly than he has in recent weeks. So I'm giving him the unsung hero status just because everybody in the offense came to hit. And that was the one moment where they needed bullpen support, and they got it.
Oh, man, I like that one. I'm going with Giancarlo Stanton, though. Got to give him credit. 2 multi-hit games in the series. I understand it wasn't entirely it wasn't the center stage impactful that Aaron Judge was, but that's why this is unsung hero, right? Insurance run homer off Paddock. That was an absolute fucking home run in my book. He takes that hanger out to left center field, very deep part of the ballpark. It's a line drive the entire way. That puts the Yankees up, I think at that point, 3-1 in the 3rd inning. Mm-hmm. Excellent. And then again, what does he do the next night? 2 for 2 for 4 with runners in scoring position. I don't know how he came to the plate 4 times with runners in scoring position, but I guess that explains whatever the hell the Yankees were doing the other night. They left 9 players on base.
They did. They sure did.
And had 15 base runners. So, yeah, let's clean that up, boys. But guess what? They got the job done. He keeps his insane RISP numbers up. He drives 1 run in with one of them, and then the rocket off Correa's glove. Correa kept it in the shallow outfield, so Judge couldn't make it home. I know sometimes we look at RISP and it's like, oh, you got to hit with RISP, and it was a weak infield grounder, or it was a bloop that didn't have enough space for the runner to actually make it around the bases. That to me, what he did was a hit with runner in scoring position. It just got a bad bounce. So in my book, he should have had 2 RBIs, but either way, that's another insurance run to make it 3-0. Very big difference between 2-1 and 3-1 and 2-0 and 3-0, especially when you're talking about needing essential perfection from 2 starting pitchers who have been a bit flawed in Carlos Rodon and Marcus Stroman, and then a bullpen that's still on stilts at this point. So Giancarlo Stanton gets it for me, steps up with the bat and drives in runs, still producing. We just need to get him at the plate whenever somebody's on second base, and then he is a 350 hitter, which is what we've all imagined Giancarlo Stanton to be.
Yeah, everybody knows Giancarlo Stanton is the guy who shortens up when runners are in scoring position. Make sure to get that little bloop single to get the job done, or just move him over with a grounder. Yeah, who the hell knows? I mean, that could qualify as strangest moment of the series, which I added just because we got to give a little tip of the cap to Willie Castro, Twins center fielder.
Good job. Horrible series. Holy shit.
He gave the Yankees a free run yesterday by forgetting the number of outs on a sac fly. I think the runner scores anyway, unless he makes a perfect throw, but he just jogs in on the second out of the inning. And that might have only been his 4th worst play of the series. The routes this guy takes. Gleyber Torres in the first inning today, too, not Castro, but hit lines a fly ball to relatively deep left field with runners on first and second so that wouldn't have gotten a run in, and it doinks off the side of Kirilov's glove. Castro has still been the worst performing outfielder, but I think strangest overall is Twins outfield without Byron Buxton has been just a clown-filled dancing circus. And Castro literally gifted a run, but man, the other stuff that he's done in this series has arguably been more indefensible.
That was the first guy. I had to listen to what was last night's game on? Fucking Amazon or some shit?
Yeah. Prime Video before, as we all threaten to merge into a future where streaming services are reconstructing cable. The Fox, ESPN, Warner Discovery streaming service Venu Sports announced today, not to be confused with Pokemon fan favorite Venusaur. That's where we're at. But now there's Yankees. Yeah, there's Netflix, NFL games on Christmas. There's Yankees baseball on Amazon Prime. And Amazon Prime also gives you the great option to, if you want to rewatch a game in progress from the beginning, you can do that. Why the fuck would you want to do
that? Why is everything we do in the world, like we had everything figured out like 15, 20 years ago? Why are we now, we're going so far away from being able to watch stuff only to circle back to where we all fucking started with it? It's all going to go back to cable. It's all going to be one centralized thing. It's not going to be 17 different platforms, apps, or services that you have to watch to be able to see your team. It's just absolutely crazy. Anyway, what I was getting at was I cover the game when I'm on my computer and I have a dual screen, and I had my cable on my dual screen, and the only offering that I was getting, because I have the MLB TV package, was the Twins broadcast. And I didn't have Amazon Prime on my TV, so I was listening to the Twins broadcast, and the broadcasters are like, Willie Castro, like, don't know what he's doing out there. These are wild, like, these angles on these balls, his head's not in the game. Like, what is this guy doing? And I'm like, oh my God, like, this guy's getting ripped, but rightfully so. Like, they don't have many. You can't, if you're going to have a guy subbing in there for Byron Buxton, can't have that mental gaffe, letting that run walk home. So yeah, that was funny to watch in its entirety, and then listening to that team's broadcast kind of pick them to shreds. Strangest moment for me, You thought it was my most surprising, but I actually got to go. I got to go with the Stroman replay review yesterday.
What on earth?
Third inning that was.
Yeah.
First of all, the timer went out, and they let Aaron Boone challenge it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Rocco Baldelli comes out. He's yelling about it, rightfully so.
Correct.
The announcers are sitting there like, timer's out. And then Boone is like, yeah, no, we're going to review it. And the umps are like, okay, cool.
Sure.
And then you see the replay, and I don't know if I don't know what the deal was. I didn't see anything there that the runner was out. I don't know. I don't know if my eye was off. I don't know if I didn't see all the angles because I was doing other things while I was keeping track of the game. But the call's overturned. So the Yankees are having this very bizarre run of luck with umpires and replay review, which is, I know every fan base thinks they're a victim of it. And we've certainly felt that way, especially because, hey, look, the umpires ejected Aaron Boone for the fan yelling something, and then Skip Schumacher, manager of the Marlins, gets ejected for the bench coach yelling something, but then goes out and pleads to the umpire that the bench coach was yelling it, and then the bench coach comes out and is like, guys, I was yelling it. And they're like, okay, great, you're out of here. Skip, you can
never
stay.
mind.
And then the home plate umpire for the Yankees game who threw out Boone said it wasn't the fan that bothered him with what he said. It was stuff from coming down further on the bench. And because Aaron Boone is the manager of the New York Yankees, he's responsible for everybody on the bench. So he's the one who should be made an example of. So fuck you, first of all. Second of all, the replay review works out for us in this scenario because if the runner is safe there, it's runners on first and third, and then the next hit is a fly ball to left field, would have brought in a run. Change the game. Not in the most influential way possible, but at that point, that would be a 3-1 game. They won 4-0 last night.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be a 3-1 game. Who knows how much, who knows if the runner from first tags up to second, you put another runner in scoring position, it could change quickly. We've seen Marcus Stroman kind of spiral at times. That could have been an example of that, of that type of performance happening in that moment when some calls don't go your way and things start to get away from you. But overall, strange how I don't from beginning to end where it was like, what's happening here? Really, that's overturned to, oh, wow, the Yankees just got themselves at least a run saved in that situation, and it ended up helping them out a lot.
Yeah, I don't know what that was, and I do know that
I'm still trying to look at this replay because I don't get it.
No, the replay review system is set up to frustrate fans because you may think the overturn is obvious, but the umpires in the New York booth have to think it's indisputable. So 50 times a year we get a call where it's like, after you see it on replay, you're 90% confident that they got the call wrong, but because the call on the field has to be incontrovertibly overturned, they're probably going to side with the call they already made. And the only time they're not is when it screws you. Speaking as an NBA playoffs viewer, it definitely feels like they usually stick with what they called the first time, except for the one time when you really don't want them to.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, now my eyes are open. Now I've seen enough. And it happened in the play at the plate in Baltimore yesterday between Baltimore and Toronto, where you're like, here's a video of a guy's hand almost definitely touching home plate safe, but it might fly over the plate. He might be forced away from the plate. Can't overturn it at 100%. The Mets game that we went to, Pete Alonso at the plate, I think his floating hand maybe didn't touch the plate. And whether it did or didn't, there was no angle where you could tell beyond a shadow of a doubt that that was the case. So for them to overturn the Stroman play, which also the clock had expired on, was definitely a deviation. And for the umpires who never give the Yankees a break at all to give them a break was bizarre. And my most surprising moment of the series, that is a fair contender, but I'll also just go with the Caleb Ferguson jump scare in the 9th inning on Wednesday. I'm so sorry to Caleb Ferguson, and he got the job done very quickly and does not deserve to be laughed at for his performance on Wednesday. And look, if he wants to return to being a valuable reliever in mid to high leverage appearances, that would be fantastic. I would welcome that. What's 4-0 in the 9th? That's a medium leverage appearance. You know,
Clay Holmes came in for that the other night.
5-1. I mean, you can blow that. I wanted to see Dennis Santana in the game. I guess at that point, it doesn't much matter. I was actually hoping to do Birdie in the 7th, Weaver in the 8th and 9th. And then they went Weaver in the 7th, and I was like, I don't know how much longer this guy can go.
That would have been cool.
So Ferguson, it was just shocking to see that he was participating in this one, and equally shocking that he got the job done quickly after his meltdown in Tampa. Again, 4-0 in the 9th. You want to say it's not blowable? He tried to blow 6-0 in the 7th the other day, very efficiently. So good recovery there, as terrified as I was seeing him. I don't know if you have another moment that works here after the Strosho moment, obviously.
Yeah, I had Carlos Rodon coming out for the 7th on Monday.
Yeah.
Just because you knew it wasn't real. Like, he came out and you're like, what? Aaron Boone wants him to get one fucking batter, doesn't he? He's doing this goddamn bullshit again. Rodon was at 98 pitches, and the Yankees are usually very territorial and strict with pitch counts on certain guys, especially guys who have dealt with injuries or who are not really up to speed with their workload or lengthened out or whatever. I know Rodon's in a good spot, but it felt like a good time to just be like, Carlos, 6 great innings. You're right at 100. Mm-hmm. Let's call it. Instead, he tries to steal it out, doesn't get it, gives up a single, I think is what happened. And then he comes out afterward. But I was sitting there and I was like, what if he actually wants him to go this entire inning? Like, that would kind of be badass. B, that would be putting a lot of faith into someone who you're still, Carlos Rodon, in my opinion, still a work in progress, still trying to get his confidence to where it needs to be. So we've talked about it a million times. If you're at, your point of, your maximum point where you're done, like you've completed the job. 6 innings and 1 earned is completing the job. So it's like, okay, why are we going to push this? Why are we? And was it the middle of the lineup at that point? Who got the hit off of him? I have the play-by-play here.
That's a great question. I was watching Dante DiVincenzo dunk, to be perfectly honest.
It was Carlos Santana. So he was going up against that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 6th batter. Okay. So I can see this. You have Carlos Santana. Is it Kyle Farmer? And Christian Vasquez?
It's not Buck Farmer.
Yeah. Either way, I was just like, and then Jeff Nelson dude, I love Jeff Nelson on the broadcast. I
love Jeff Nelson on the broadcast too. You got to lighten him up with a non-flarity, but I love Jeff Nelson.
Yes, no, 100%. But he was saying he's like very curious as to what that conversation was in the dugout with Rodon, because he's like, you either don't say anything and you pretend like, yeah, you're Carlos, you're going out for the 7th. Like, I didn't tell you otherwise, and you let him take care of business. Or 2, you ask him, hey, are you ready to go for the 7th? I want you to finish this. And then you let him take care of business. But he was maybe under the impression that Boone was like, can you get this one batter and save us, an extra out from the bullpen? Don't know what happened, but it is interesting interesting. I fucking hate that word.
It is interesting. If at the very least, it's interesting.
It is it is intriguing. Just another synonym. I do wonder what was said there, because we talked heading into this season about this year being a big challenge for Aaron Boone, because there's a lot bigger personalities in this locker room. When you talk about Alex Verdugo, when you talk about Juan Soto, when you talk about Marcus Stroman, I think a Carlos Rodon back to his peak powers fits right in with those kinds of personalities. So I'm sitting here and I'm wondering what that conversation was, because it might have been the way to go about it was to just not say anything. Jeff Nelson, I think, is totally right. You don't say anything, or you say, I need the 7th inning from you. Let's get this done. Not, can we please get one batter? Don't do that shit.
Yeah, that's valid.
That's all. But it was surprising to see him out there, because I thought they were just going to say, you know what, win 6 innings, 1 earned. Let's get out of here. Let's enjoy ourselves.
Rodon's personality, another good connective tissue to the one additional thing I want to speak about before the end of the show. And we are going to toss at the end of the show, remember, to an interview with DJ Caruso, the director of Bronx New 90, the absolute absurd new documentary, Crime, Chaos, and Baseball.
Oh, it's out today.
Is the subtitle. It's out today. Explosive is what the New York Post called it. That doesn't even begin to cover it. It's George Steinbrenner's ouster. It's his fight with Dave Winfield. There is a sex criminal involved in the interview process on the Yankees roster in the early 90s. There are 2 live cougars. George Steinbrenner injures a man's shoulder, allegedly, pretty directly. There's gamblers. There's lifelong criminals telling stories. It's absurd. So there's plenty more to the show. Please do not tune out. But on the stream itself, one more point I want to raise before we go. Rodon ended 2023 horrifically, right? With not only his worst start, but one of the worst starts we've ever seen. He turned his back on Matt Blake, literally and figuratively, turned a blind eye to his teachings. That served as a reset moment for Rodon, who said, I just want to end the season. I want to go on a retreat. I'm going to go to my second, my hunting home and just go out in the woods. That was an important moment for this year, obviously, clearly, that you might have tuned out or not, just chosen not to believe. Like at the end of 2023, there was a lot of, okay, Rodon can tell me what he wants to, but I just watched him be terrible for a full season. So why would I believe what he has to say? Ultimately, it ended up being a truthful pivot point, a moment when he was being honest, and a moment that he did learn from and got better. Maybe it was just healing physically. Maybe it was a little bit of healing physically and mentally, but he has changed. So if you didn't remember that from 2023, obviously that moment is still having an impact on this year's Yankees team. But I wanted to pinpoint 2 other moments that don't get enough shine from September of 2023. A lost month at the end of a lost season that we knew was lost from probably the end of June on, I would say. That end of 2023 has effectively set up this 2024 start in 2 ways that do not get enough love. One, getting garbage time with Luke Weaver, who gets 3 starts, signed September 12th, 2023, strikes out 16 and 13 in a third innings. The starts are fine. They're abbreviated. He's coming off multiple DFAs. What's the harm in taking a chance on an arm at the end of a lost season? This is the point in the year when the Yankees are filling up the rotation and bullpen with sort of random guys anyway, just to take the burden on Zach McAllister, Anthony Misavich. They're just sort of taking lottery tickets and going, hey, you get in there. So nobody thought much of Weaver getting a couple starts. You think, hey, maybe they see something they like, maybe they uncover it, but they're probably just taking a flyer at this point. The starts are fine. Good, not great, encouraging compared to his previous body of work. He hits free agency. The moment we should have known that they found something during those 3 starts is when they re-sign him this offseason, not just for 2024, but with an option for 2025.
Oh, there is an option.
Club option for 2025. And now Weaver has been borderline spotless for the last, I think it's 15 shutout innings, but all year long, he has evolved into the Michael King replacement they were telling us was going to be Jonathan Loaizaga, but I think quite clearly behind the scenes, they thought Weaver might be the multi-inning swingman, and he's proving them very right. So his time with the team, extremely short, and during a month where you weren't watching after Jason Dominguez got his Tommy John surgery, proven valuable to 2024. And the other thing was the aforementioned King. How often, if the Yankees weren't out of it last September, would they have told King to go fulfill his... He keeps telling them he can make starts. Would they have nodded their heads and said yes? Would they have said, okay, good, get in that rotation? Who cares if they weren't basically eliminated by early September? Because King gets in the rotation. The outing against Toronto, the 7 innings, 13 Ks is the one that you really remember. But he proved he had the stuff to be a starter. He proved he was durable enough to go 7. And ultimately, that month, not the relief work, which was pretty good in 2023, much more exceptional before his elbow injury in 2022. It wasn't the relief work that made him untouchable in a Juan Soto trade and made the Padres feel like they were getting something when they persuaded the Yankees to give up on 2 years of control of King as the centerpiece. Same with Johnny Brito, by the way, who had a 1.35 ERA in 20 innings last September. The Yankees there wasn't a starter. They moved him to the bullpen. He proved he could be a viable bullpen arm. They moved King to the rotation at his behest. He proves he could be a centerpiece. Spoiler alert, I don't think the Yankees were as anxious about giving up King as they sold the Padres on. They made him a centerpiece. They made Drew Thorpe a centerpiece. That's the kind of prospect you have to surrender to get a Juan Soto. even if King had been phenomenal this year, which he's been pretty good until his most recent run of starts, you still do that 100 times out of 100 to get Soto. And they were only able to sell King as what they sold him as because of September 2023. So just shout out to the Yankees doing work in the shadows last fall when a lot of us were at our angriest and saying their aim. Remember that CBS Sports column that came out that was basically like the aimless Yankees since 2017 and how they reached this disaster. It turns out they were still working while we were all shaking our fists at them. And I think they deserve to be commended for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, they still definitely lost their way and left a lot to be desired. Judge another
undoubtedly.
double.
It was a terrible season. It was a terrible season, and it looked like the rot at the beginning of the end.
Yeah. Judge another double to dead center. He's hit it now, the last 2 at-bats, to that spot.
Great.
4-11. One was caught at the wall. The other one hit the wall. Runners on second and third. So
this is just a classic Judge swing, too. The breaking ball low and away, which he was unable to make any contact with 3 weeks ago. All of a sudden, we're hitting it 400 feet to left center off the base of the wall, off the facing. Yeah, he's good.
Pretty cool.
Pretty good.
Michael King. I had 2 theories when this trade was going down. It was either the Yankees were absolutely out of their minds stupid and believed he was a key piece to not trade, which I did not think. I thought they were gassing up Michael King to make the Padres believe that he was a more coveted asset than he actually was. And it's nothing against Michael King. I was not a Michael King believer as a starter. A lot of people were mad at me for that. I don't know why. He had never proven himself as a starter until last September. So now we're going to all of a sudden buy into the guy after he's 29 years old. Yes. And now this is it. Now, okay, he's a starter now. Okay, sure. His best work was in relief, in multi-inning relief. And he had moments of giving up a lot of hard contact and not finding the zone. And what are we seeing now? League leading 11 home runs, league leading 26 walks as the Padres starter.
Fastball run value in the 7th percentile. It's already subtracted. It's -6 on Savant. Pitching run value overall 18th percentile, -4.
Yeah. I mean, Michael King is a great back-end starter, in my opinion. Number 4, number 5, I think he helps lengthen your rotation. He has the talent to go battle the Dodgers on a random night. He has the talent to give you an uneven matchup in game 4 of a playoff series when your pitching staff is really gassed at that point. Otherwise, though, he's got a 4.31 ERA, a 4.93 FIP, and a 1.36 WHIP. And if you're holding on to that asset to not trade for a generational player, then you're doing business wrong. So truly, the Yankees, and we talked about this when the trade happened, we said, you know what? That is a lot of pitching depth to trade from, and it's going to hurt for a minute. But guess what? They didn't trade anybody of real value here where you're going to be kicking yourselves in a few months. And the way that they've been able to replicate pitchers, as we're seeing with Luke Weaver, as we're seeing with the emergence of Clark Schmidt, who, by the way, 6 scoreless innings today. Is he going out for the 7th? Probably, because I think he only has 82 pitches thrown. The Yankees have done a tremendous job in replicating that type of production. So to say that we laugh because the Yankees, the 2022 Yankees and the 2023 Yankees were so bizarrely constructed that Michael King going down in July of 2022 turned the Yankees into a 500 team.
Yep. Below 500 for
below
a while.
500 team. You're just like, what the fuck? Like, Michael King was integral as a bullpen piece, and especially as a multi-inning bullpen, he was all-star caliber. But again, like, on what planet are you hanging on to an all-star reliever for one of the best hitters in baseball? You're just not. The trade-off there is never, and that's why you're looking at these Mason Miller trade packages that all these sites are floating, and you're like, no, I'm not giving up somebody who could have 6 years of impact as an everyday starter, as a position player, for someone who's going to throw 65 innings a year. No, you're not doing that. So the Yankees did what they had to do by converting King to a starter, because they knew that that's where the value would be, what the Padres would be looking for, given all the pieces that they were losing in the offseason and free agency. And they somehow turned 9 starts of that into pretending like Michael King should have been the centerpiece of this deal, and it worked out. So, look, it's a long season. Michael King's a third of the way through. He has 20-something starts left if he could stay healthy. He could end up with a low 3 ERA at this point. I think if he goes on a heater, I don't think that's going to happen. But even so, even if he did that, look at what the Yankees have built in the meantime. They figured out how to get Carlos Rodon at least back on track, so we're not talking about the disastrous contract. They got Marcus Stroman in the rotation, who's a better starter than Michael King anyway. They improved Clark Schmidt to the point where he is better than Michael King. And they have Nestor Cortez, who I think people might kill me for this, is probably similarly talented to Michael King. Nestor Cortez has very little success at the major league level. One good year in 2022, injured all of last year, back this year. The 2021, he was half in relief, partially a starter, didn't really know what he was. So the Yankees, and then you have Luke Weaver, who Aaron Boone said on the Talking Yanks podcast the other day, like, I'm not going to rule him out potentially making a start. God forbid something happens. Mm-hmm. Like they know he has length. They know he has the ability to build up to probably 4, 5, 6 innings if push came to shove. So the options are all there. And we don't. And the greatest part is we don't have to worry about prospects right now. Knock on wood, but you're not hearing a peep about, oh, when's this guy coming up? The rotation needs help. We need a 6th starter. We need a bullpen lengther. No, right now everything's fine. We need a high leverage reliever. That's about it.
Fun game of the minor league level yesterday too for people who do want to think about that type of stuff. Clayton Beeter was great. Did Clayton Beeter things. It ended up only being like 4 innings because he struggled with his control a little bit, but I think he struck out 5, didn't allow a hit. Gave way to Cody Morris, who was even better. 2-0, 1.40 ERA in 19 1/3 innings, 26 strikeouts at the AAA level right now. And yesterday specifically, 2 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 5 Ks, effortless. Phil Bickford closed it out. Cody Poteet has a 3.5 ERA at the AAA level. The Yankees do have depth right now. And hilariously, Michael King, similar pitchers to Michael King this year based on velocity and movement. 2020 Ivan Nova and 2024 Hayden Wesneski. So can't escape these guys, but you do that for Juan Soto every time. Mason Miller, we'll talk about him in future episodes, I'm sure, because the trade rumors will only get realer there. But I don't know why you surrender 3 top 100 prospects for a volatile reliever who's the best closer in baseball right now, but probably won't be in 2 months. Mm-hmm. And I also don't know why the A's would do that, because they're not going to get a prospect package that is crazy enough to make them a contender by 2026. Do they want to be a contender by 2026? Do they want to get more assets to sell more assets to get more pieces to eventually be a contender in 2030? Do they want 6 years of control of Mason Miller? Because I don't think they're getting a package that's going to bowl them over for a short reliever. And I don't think it's worth trading the best closer in baseball for something that doesn't revolutionize your roster. So I don't think they should trade him at all unless somebody blows him away, but I don't think anybody will. So we'll get into that over time. Appreciate everybody sticking with us today on the Yanks Go Yard podcast. First 2 games wrapped up. Clark Schmidt looked great through 6 today. Hopefully they let him close on a high note and don't push him.
He did something dumb.
Did he?
Yeah, he cleanly fielded a ground ball and then he friggin' just went like this to first base and made a bad throw. Had Carlos Santana by a mile, hit him with the ball, and now he's safe. So,
well, that's great.
Hopefully nothing bad happens, but yeah, I don't know what that was. He knew the second he threw it. I'm also worried that he's going to get dinged for sticky stuff because I keep seeing him go hat, neck, shirt, ball. I hope he's using sticky stuff. Everyone should.
Cody Poteet waiting in the wings if we got that 10.
Oh, yeah, Cody Poteet. We haven't heard a word about him either, except for us. We're the only people.
We love him. It's six great innings in his only start of the year, 3.5 ERA at AAA right now. If we get Rodel Blanco'd, I guess that's who we'll go to. But we'll see everybody back here on Monday. I believe, not positive on the timing because I'll be in motion, but we're going to do a podcast on Monday. Yeah. Thanks for scoping out the Yanks Go Yard podcast live stream. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. Thomas Carinante, where can the people find you?
I am at Tommy's_takes. We are both at the official Yanks Go Yard Twitter account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please also head on over to yanksgoyard.com. We are writers. We are writing content. We also have other people writing for us. Lots of good perspectives on there. Keeping up with the times, looking ahead to the trade deadline, aggregating some stuff, giving you some opinions, some takes. So it'd be great if you read too. Reading's actually really healthy for you. So we would advocate for that. Anyway, again, yes, we will see you on Monday. We'll update you at the time, but enjoy the weekend. Who the fuck are we playing this weekend? Why did I just forget?
Chicago White Sox.
That's right. That's why I forgot.
Yeah, because they also forgot. But hopefully we take care of business. It'd be great. And in the meantime, relive a year when life was much more hellish for Yankee fans than it currently is. There are worse indignities than not winning a World Series for 15 years, even though it doesn't feel like it. That does feel like the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. What about leading the 80s in total wins, making only one playoff appearance, no titles, and then having a team full of criminals and your owner banished from baseball? The interview with DJ Caruso, the director of Bronx New 90, begins now.